Hello, everyone. I'm Morgan Merriman, Realtor with the RE/MAX Alliance here in Fort Collins, Colorado, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Lifestyle Living's Community Connection. So today I have the pleasure of speaking with a remarkable individual, Dexter Beasley, the executive director who has played a pivotal role in the success of Foco Cafe here in Old Town. Foco Cafe is a nonprofit restaurant that has become a true beacon of hope and community here in Old Town. It was established in 2014 and has blazed a trail as the first nonprofit restaurant of its kind here in Fort Collins. So their unique pay what you can model has created an inclusive environment where patrons set their price for meals, ensuring that no one goes hungry and promoting the spirit of giving. So Dexter, thank you again for joining me today. It's a pleasure to sit with you, share some insights and experiences. I've heard about this place, but I don't know much. I've heard about the model and it just sounds amazing, pay what you can and really just a way to give back. So first off, can you give our audience an overview of what Foco Cafe does and how it uniquely addresses food insecurity in the community?
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on it a little bit, but Foco Cafe is a nonprofit restaurant. So rather than having a set price for our meals, we operate on a sliding donation scale.
Okay.
We also have our meal exchange program, which empowers folks to pay with their time and talent in exchange for a meal if that option works better for them.
Okay.
We try to use as much locally sourced organic produce as possible, create seasonal menus to make sure we're using that produce as well as we can. And then we've got a few outdoor resources as well, including our Frige or free fridge, our kindness cupboard, which is a non-perishable food pantry, and our giving tree, which has clothing, hygiene products, boots, bags, all that sort of thing.
Awesome.
Other than food, our main focus here is community. We're trying to bring everybody we can in here, whether they have $5 in their pocket, $500 in their pocket, paying with their time and talent, or making a monetary donation. Because we believe that bringing people of all different backgrounds together, all different identities, really strengthens a community and helps build connections that otherwise might not get built.
Yeah.
Helps to destigmatize food insecurity, poverty, homelessness, and it builds a community that centers around dignity and respect and treating everybody with that.
Yeah, which is so important. With everything being so much more unaffordable these days, it can be quite easy for somebody who has been kind of borderline scraping by to fall into that homelessness category. And so, like you said, to destigmatize it, I think is so important, especially here in Fort Collins where I grew up here. We've never really had that much of an issue of it here, but it is growing like any city, especially a growing city. Mm-hmm. That population is going to grow as things become more difficult. So very, very cool. So what inspired you to become the executive director here, and what has been your most rewarding experience in the role so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got kind of a strange journey into this role. I graduated from CSU with a bachelor degree in human development and family studies with a concentration in leadership and entrepreneurial professions, which is a mouthful, but basically means I want to go into nonprofit work. I had been working in restaurants since I was about 16 years old and spent a few years at a local restaurant here. And the last year or so of that I was managing. And then I, through a mutual friend of the chef actually, heard about an opening at Foco Cafe and thought, what a great way to apply what I know about the restaurant management side of things and start learning more about the nonprofit side of things.
Yeah.
So I came on board in August 2022 as operations manager. And then 6 months in, our previous director, Mallory, said that she was going to move on to bigger and better things after 6 years of being executive director here at the cafe. And just kind of on a whim, I decided to throw my hat in the ring, fully expecting that the position would go to somebody with more experience or expertise. But to my surprise, the board of directors voted unanimously to make me executive director.
That's amazing.
After some crying and a lot of excitement and now 8 months in the role, I feel like I've got my feet on the ground, and it's just been an incredible experience getting to learn so much so quickly and get so much experience at an early age like this.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's amazing. And it is really a nice combination of the two, of your, professional studies and then your work background. And I kind of did the same with real estate. I have a degree in architecture that I ended up not pursuing due to weird economic things and then just losing interest in pursuing it as a career. But I also worked in restaurants from junior high through high school, up through the end of college, and then post-college for 12 years. All sorts of high-end restaurants back in Austin, but I always had a sort of an interest in real estate. It was like, okay, well, I've got the architectural knowledge, I've got the people skills of hospitality, let's combine them both, and instead of selling high-end tequilas, start selling houses. So it's worked out well, but it's a good path. And how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
25.
25, and to be in a role with this much responsibility in such an important factor here in Old Town, that's pretty impressive. So definitely something to be proud of for sure. So could you share some of the long-term goals that you have for Foco Cafe, both in terms of community impact and sustainability as a nonprofit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really want to strengthen Foco Cafe's position as a community hub. Like I said, food is at the center of what we do, but just as much, if not more so, community is at the center of what we do. Yeah. So I want to continue to increase our reach and serve more people every day. Right now, we're serving about 30 people a day on average. Okay. And pre-COVID, it was 40, 50, 60 people a day. So I'd really like to get back to those numbers and even grow beyond that. Yeah. Because the more folks that we can get in here, the more community connections we can build, and the more people we can feed in the community. Yeah. So that's one of the major ones. I've also been working pretty hard to kind of correct misconceptions that I hear around town, especially folks who haven't been into Foco Cafe before. Sometimes I'll bring it up and they'll say, oh, that's like a soup kitchen, right? Or say, oh, I've seen it, but I haven't gone in, because if I go in and get a meal, that's taking it away from somebody who really needs it, which actually couldn't be further from the truth.
For sure.
I mean, we're here for everyone in the community, and it is a pay what you can scale. So yes, we are here for folks who need to make a smaller donation or volunteer for their meal, but we really rely on folks who can come in and pay what would typically be full price for a meal, or even make a larger donation to kind of sustain that operation, make sure we can keep feeding the community.
Yeah. And do you get a fair amount of that? Do you get a fair amount of people who are coming in and just paying what you normally would at any of these restaurants down the street?
Yeah, absolutely. So we end up roughly, and it varies quite a bit, but the meals we serve, about a third of them are for meal exchanges or volunteering in exchange for a meal. Okay. Another third are on the lower end of the donation scale, so making a monetary donation but not quite meeting our costs with it. Okay. And then the final third is folks who are making more what you would making a donation more in line with what you'd pay at a typical restaurant, or going above and beyond with it.
And so if it has happened, or if it happens where you sort of fall below your cost for food, cost for paying paid employees, how do you guys make up for that? Are there city subsidies? Are there general donors who contribute on a regular basis? How do you make up for that gap if it gets to that point?
Sure. So there's a few different avenues for that. One is individual donations, either one-time or recurring. We've got a link on our website to contribute to the mission in that way. Okay. We've got somewhere between 1 and 200 sustaining members or monthly recurring donors who contribute to the cafe. Nice. So that brings in a pretty significant portion of the funding that allows us to feed the community. We also do get grants from the city and foundations, state of Colorado. And so we're constantly applying for as many grants as we can to make sure that we can sustain our mission. Yeah. So we rely on those grants from the city, from foundations, and then we've got some fundraisers throughout the year as well. Coming up here in November, we've got our Thanksgiving lunch service, which is actually the celebration of our 9th anniversary here at the cafe. Okay. So we opened Thanksgiving Day 2014, and every year we do a Thanksgiving lunch to celebrate that. Last year we served somewhere between 150 and 200 meals within a 3-hour period. So same time frame as a regular lunch service, but about 5 times as many meals. Wow. That one's great because we get to sell orders ahead of time and folks can come pick them up, or they can walk in, grab a meal. If they can make a donation, that's awesome. But those who are making a monetary donation, are then allowing us to give meals to folks who couldn't make that monetary donation,
For
who
sure.
might not get a Thanksgiving meal otherwise.
Yeah.
And then in December, this year it's December 5th, is Colorado Gives Day. We have our big Party with a Purpose at Odell for Colorado Gives Day every year.
Okay.
It's our biggest fundraiser of the year, trying to bring in the most money. And so we try to raise enough money to cover rent and utilities for the upcoming year. I believe last year we hit something like 15 months rent.
Oh my
with
God.
just kind of that single day.
That's awesome.
So that's definitely a big portion of the funding.
For sure. No, and that's huge. That really helps to make sure that at least that portion, which I'm sure is a large cost, rent in this area cannot be cheap. Making sure that that's covered is huge. So very nice. All right. So what are some of the challenges that you've faced in running a nonprofit, and how have you overcome them to continue to be able to serve the community effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. So running a nonprofit on its own is really tough. Running a restaurant on its own is really tough.
For sure.
And trying to operate as both has a whole unique set of challenges and kind of difficulties around it. But that's exactly the kind of thing I like to work on. I've always been big on problem solving and creative thinking, and it really does take a lot of creativity and being adaptable to change to make sure that we can sustain something like this. But sometimes the creative solutions we come up with or the things we try don't quite work out. For example, we, up until the beginning of this month, had a minimum donation at $5 and a suggested donation at $15.
Yeah.
And those were actually raised over the last year from $4 and $12. And we thought, we're losing money on these meals. Need is really increased, but our income really hasn't.
Yeah.
So we thought, if we raise the minimum and suggested donations, we might bring in a little more and be able to sustain ourselves a little better.
Yeah.
But we kind of failed to recognize that doing so would make our service less accessible to the community. There's a stigma that having a minimum donation or a suggested donation, at least in terms of monetary donation, kind of builds. And if somebody comes in and they see the suggested donation and they can't make it, and they have to say, I need to make a smaller donation, or if they can't make the minimum, they need to volunteer. That kind of others them. And everything we try to do here centers around treating everybody with the same respect and dignity, with the same expectations. And so at the beginning of this month, we got rid of our minimum donation and our suggested donation.
Okay.
And now we just display some of our costs in a transparent way. So folks have an idea of, if I give this much money, this is what it'll cover, but without that expectation of you should be giving this much,
For sure.
or you need to give at least this much. So we sometimes we'll try something and realize that it steps away from our mission a little bit, and then we do what we can to realign. Yeah,
no, but that's good that you realize it and then you make that correction, and that's just part of anything in life and business. Is you're going to try some things that ideally they sound like it may work, and then it just kind of backfires. So, but it's good that you make that correction. So. All right, so Foco Cafe places a strong emphasis on using local, organic, and sustainably grown ingredients. You had mentioned that. So can you tell us a little bit more about your sourcing practices and their impact on the quality of the meals that you have here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we try to get as much locally grown, organic, whether or not it has the official organic label, because that can be pretty expensive.
For sure.
And pesticide-free produce from Fort Collins or northern Colorado as a whole, as we can. We've got the growing project outside, runs the garden that we have out there, and they'll provide us some of their produce. We also have local farmers, local churches, gardeners, just individuals who come by and drop off produce they might have in abundance.
Nice.
That would otherwise go to waste, but we can use it here in the cafe.
Yeah.
And then anything that we get donated and we can't use directly in the cafe for our lunch service, we channel through those outdoor resources that I mentioned earlier, making sure they're still going out to the community and being used in a way that aligns with our mission of being sustainable and as little waste as possible. But yeah, we really just tried to connect with the community, engage with the community, And then in addition to getting produce donated, we also purchase as much produce as we can from local farmers, especially just trying to support that local agriculture. And they'll give us a good deal, and we give them a little bit of recognition. We have their name up on a board over on the counter.
There you go.
And it's a great way to make those community connections and really strengthen that partnership, make sure that we're focusing on community the way that we mean to.
Yeah, and then that works as a cyclical sort of solution and promotion. I mean, like you said, they're helping you. You're helping to sort of promote them, which I'm sure in turn helps them to grow. And kind of like what I talked to you about, part of why I do this. I mean, that's just how anything in business kind of works is, it's a reciprocative, I'm going to help you, you're going to help me, together we're going to help more people, and everybody's going to win, So I love it. Alrighty, getting at the end here, I like to throw in this question. It's kind of fun. When you're not working, what do you enjoy to do here in beautiful Melco?
Yeah, absolutely. So being here in Fort Collins, I'd be remiss not to try and get out in nature as much as I can.
Sure.
I really try to go out and walk and bike as much as I possibly can. I tend to work off site quite a bit because I've got lots of spreadsheets and emails that are a little tougher to get done when I'm here on site.
Yeah.
And so I'll park far out of the town and walk to and from each location that I hang out at for a couple of hours while I'm working. Try to bike, like I said, as much as I can. We've got the great trails here.
Oh, yeah.
I live right by the Mason Trail, so it's a really great way for me to get downtown from where I'm at. And then I like to say one of my biggest hobbies is appreciating beauty. So I'm always trying to keep an eye out for the little beautiful things around me, which can be a little annoying for my friends when we're out on a walk and I stop every 2 minutes to take a picture of a flower or a bug or a cloud or the fall leaves. But I just try not to miss any of it because it's so easy to get tunnel vision and focus on one thing, and there's so much beauty all around us.
Yeah.
So I just really try to pay attention to that because we're so blessed, especially here in Fort Collins.
Yeah, no, for sure. I grew up here and I left for 20 years, basically 19 years. And I went to some beautiful places, but we got back 2.5 years ago. And it really does make you appreciate what I had here and growing up here. And granted, the city has grown a lot in 20 years, but it's still such a beautiful community. My mother-in-law came recently last year. She said, I just love all the trees. And that is what Fort Collins is known for. Trees, and more trees. And I mean, she lives in LA and it's concrete jungle. So it's quite the difference. So we do have a great place here. All righty. Well, thanks again to you, Dexter. Thanks to all of you for tuning in to learn about yet another great local establishment. I mean, Foco Cafe is just, it's the work that they are doing here is so important and so impactful to so many. Just a great establishment. So Foco Cafe's mission to combat food insecurity while fostering a sense of togetherness and respect in the community is beyond admirable. The cafe not only provides nutritious and delicious meals to those in need, but it also champions the values of dignity, community, and sustainable food practices that we just need a lot more of these days. So once again, I'm Morgan Merriman, Realtor at RE/MAX Alliance here in Fort Collins. If you have a business or you know of somebody who does, who would like to be interviewed on my interview series, please go ahead and reach out to me. All of my information will be at the end of the video. And of course, I'm always happy to help out you and your loved referrals for any real estate needs. So we'll catch you next time on the next episode of Lifestyle Living's Community Connection.